Hey guys, Pastor Jason here, one of the pastors at North Park Church in Columbus, Nebraska, and once again, very grateful to be bringing your life group lesson to you for the week. And we're still in our Fearless series, talking about fearlessness, talking about Joshua leading the Israelites into the Promised Land, and we're on week 14 of this series, so really digging a whole lot of stuff out of this story. Have a great time doing it, and I hope you guys are excited to be going a little bit deeper, to be hanging out with your group, to be checking this lesson out. And today, our verses are from Joshua chapter 5, and we're focusing on verses 13 through 15. So Joshua 5, verses 13 through 15. I'm going to go ahead and read those verses out loud now. You guys follow along, and we'll get into the discussion questions at that point. So here we go. When Joshua was by Jericho, he lifted up his eyes and looked, and behold, a man was standing before him with his drawn sword in his hand. And Joshua went to him and said to him, "Are you for us or for our adversaries?" And he said, "No, but I am the commander of the army of the Lord. Now I've come." And Joshua fell on his face to the earth and worshipped and said to him, "What does my Lord say to his servant?" And the commander of the Lord's army said to Joshua, "Take off your sandals from your feet, for the place where you are standing is holy." And Joshua did so. Okay, so there's a lot going on in this story. But question one, we see in the very beginning of the story that Joshua is by Jericho. First question, what does Jericho represent? Pray about that, talk about it now. Okay, so Jericho is an overwhelming obstacle for sure. Jericho is enemy territory. Jericho has walls as high as probably skyscrapers. It's impenetrable. It is an overwhelming obstacle, an overwhelming force to be dealt with as far as Joshua is concerned, as far as anybody would be concerned in this situation. So Jericho represents an overwhelming obstacle, something too big to be tackled. Question two, how do you think you would feel if you were in Joshua's shoes? Put yourself in that spot. There you are, in enemy territory, looking at this massive city. How do you think you would feel if you were in Joshua's shoes? Pray about that and discuss that now. Okay, and question three, getting a little bit deeper here. What stands out to you most about Joshua's actions in these verses? And hopefully you were here for the message or you've seen it online and you can kind of refer back to this because there's way too much in it just to go over in this life group lesson, but the way that Joshua handles things is a great example for us. So what stands out to you most about Joshua's actions in these verses, the way he handles any situation in these verses? Pray about that, talk about that now. Okay, so we see a lot going on here. Just to kind of briefly recap what we learned on Sunday, we see Joshua spending time with God. We see Joshua watching out for what God is doing. We see Joshua moving with boldness. He sees this guy with the sword drawn, and he just cruises right up to him, like no hesitation. Are you for us or are you against us? And we see him completely leaving the outcome to God. So we see a lot of stuff going on with Joshua in these verses. And there's a lot to be learned from that. So moving on to question 4. What is your Jericho? Because we learn a lot about overwhelming obstacles. We learn a lot about a good way to handle these obstacles. We all have things that appear as giants to us, seem overwhelming, looming on the horizon. So what is your Jericho? Pray about that. Be willing to be honest. Be willing to admit it. Be willing to put it out there. Talk about that now. Okay, and last question, takeaway question. What is God teaching you about overwhelming obstacles through today's verses? What is He teaching you about how to see them? What is He teaching you about something you can apply? What is, just anything. Really pray about this. Let the Holy Spirit speak to you and be willing to discuss this stuff in your life group. And be willing to carry it outside of group with you and apply it as you go about your day-to-day affairs throughout the week. What's God teaching you about overwhelming obstacles through today's verses? That's the last question. Hope it's been a good lesson for you guys, and I will be back with you next week.